Okay, hello, book lovers. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in to another video. And so let me just get right into it. So, what if you spent a night wandering through the cold, empty streets of Seoul, searching for meaning but finding nothing but loneliness? That's the unsettling experience captured in Seoul 1964 Winter by Kim Sung-ok, a short story that brilliantly reflects the alienation, aimlessness, and quiet desperation of a generation caught in a rapidly changing Korea. So, this is a classic of South Korean literature, and today we're diving into why it still resonates more than 50 years later. And if you stick around to the end, I will talk about a sort of a little unsolved mystery related to the publishing of this book. Was originally published in 1960. Uh, yeah, 1964, 1965, I think. And it's a winter themed book, published, like I said, in actually, do you know what? I've got 64, 65 here. So anyway, published, almost 60, yeah, 60 years ago, right? Wow. And it's probably Kim Sung-ok's most celebrated and famous story. And the version I'm reviewing is an English translation by Marshall R. Phil, professor of Korean literature at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And it was published in 2008 as part of a beautiful series of books published by Holland. And this version has a series of photographs taken in 2004 in the neighborhoods where the story takes place. But actually, this story has been published several times. Okay, I don't have much room here. So it was also published in this book here, this Penguin collection, the Penguin Book of Korean Short Stories. And it was also published in Land of Exile, another early collection of short stories, right? So it's a story that keeps getting republished. So why is that? Why is this story so important, so significant that it keeps on getting republished? We'll come to that in a second. So this is the first time I've reviewed Kim Sung-ok on the channel. So let me just introduce a little about her background. So Kim's a very interesting character, and his most famous stories reflect the turbulent historical events that Korea was experiencing in and around the 1960s. So he was born in Osaka, Japan in 1941, but returned to Korea in 1945 after the country's liberation. And he grew up in Suncheon in Cholanam-do. He attended Seoul University in 1961, which at the time was a center of unrest and discontent. He studied French literature, and he started his career at the tender age of 19 by producing cartoons for a newspaper. And he started the literary journal as an undergraduate as well. And he was just 23 years old when he wrote Seoul 1964 Winter, and which won the Tongin Literature Prize in 1965. And he continued to write fiction for several years, but he apparently quit fiction in 1979 after hearing the voice of God and becoming a devout Christian. And Chong Eun-kyung, a literary critic, says that Kim represents the best of 1960s South Korean literature. So, what is the basic story of Seoul 1964 Winter, and what can we expect from this 60-year-old short story novella? So it has an immediately engaging and atmospheric introduction. So we have three strangers, two students, one rich, the other poor, and a man in his 30s. Who meet randomly in a drinking tent on a cold winter evening. They share some drinks. They talk about banal, meaningless topics and some of their shared experiences. And as they are about to part, the older man beseeches the two younger men to stay with him a while longer. He reveals that his wife died earlier that day and that he sold her body to the university hospital. Sorry. He asks the two men if they will help him spend the 4,000 won before the nighttime curfew. They reluctantly agree, and so begins an odyssey through the unfriendly streets of Seoul on a cold winter evening. And that is essentially the entire plot. They have a series of encounters, they visit various places, and in one way or another, go their separate directions at the end. However, there is a lot going on beneath the surface. So, as I said, Korea was going through huge changes at this time. So the country was still, recovering from the war. There was a period of rapid industrialization. There was an authoritarian government. People were flocking to the cities. How is all of this reflected in the story? So some critics see the story as sort of a simultaneously tragic yet comic satire of a society that was in crisis. So we have the human relationships that we see in the story are empty and meaningless. There's no real connection or understanding between these people. They can only talk about the most trivial of topics. They have no real goals or direction. There's an air of hopelessness and desperation to the actions of all three men. At one point, they follow a fire engine just so they can see a building on fire. And then together they sit and watch as the mannequins in the department store that's in the shop that's on fire just sort of melt down. It's very the imagery here is so strong and just conveys something of the existential despair and desperation of these characters just sitting there watching these mannequins melt. And anyway, these three characters are reeling from the systemic shocks that the country has experienced. Their aimlessness and alienation is a symptom of these wider social issues. So, what are the strengths of the story, and why do some critics, like I mentioned, think that Kim represents the best of 1960s South Korean literature? I think part of the reason is that there might not have been anything quite like it before. So it's quite experimental in that there's no real plot as such. And as a young student himself, um, I think Kim captures something of the restlessness of young adulthood. And critics, say the kind of thing that he gave voice to his generation as they rebelled against convention and this kind of thing. It's also extremely atmospheric. So despite this sort of lack of, conventional plot, it's immediately engaging and compelling. You want to know what is going to happen. And then there's this feeling of dread hanging over everything that nothing good can or will happen. And it's still an important story because it captures a mood, a time, a place, and an atmosphere, as well as still having something relevant to say about the unfriendliness and alienation potential of large cities. And like I mentioned as well, so there's photographs in this edition. So Kim Hong-hee, a photographer, took photos in the sort of Jongno Street and the general area, the sort of Jongno area where the story happens in 2004. Obviously, looks very different, right? It was 40 years after the setting of the story. Nevertheless, they still add to the overall effect of the book. I can show you one. So we have these sort of images of, this neon lit Jongno alleys. Let me try and find the one I'm thinking of specifically. I won't be able to find it now. I should have been sensible and put the bookmark in first. Okay, I can't find it. So anyway, this is a type of photographs. Like this is the drinking tent that the guys would have been in when they were drinking. So anyway, so should you read this book? Yes. If you love books that are atmospheric and poetic and character driven, or if you're interested in South Korean history and social change, then yes, you absolutely should. So if you want, something a bit more plot driven instead of mood driven, this probably isn't for you. But if you're willing to experience a haunting night in Seoul in 1964, the book is fantastic. And anyway, like I said, so there's an unsolved, a small unsolved mystery to do with the publishing of this book. What is that mystery? So this book was published by Holland. You can see in the corner there, the Holland Publishing Company, and they're beautiful editions, right? They're beautiful editions. They, they're hardback. They have the nice sleeve, okay? They have the lovely little bookmark. They have the English and the Korean original. And they usually, I think all of them have at least one essay, right? So one essay accompanying the story, like by a critic or by the photographer or by someone who's a fan of the book, someone in the literary industry. So they're fantastic little editions, right? And anyway, at the back, it says, so this series was called the Modern Korean Short Story Series, the Holland Modern Korean Short Story Series, right? And there are 10 books listed as being in this series, right? There's 10 books listed as being in this series. And I managed to get 7 of them, right? I got 7 of them, okay? And the other 3 stories, so one of the stories is the other 3 stories, right, that are listed here, they seemed like they never actually got published. So maybe Holland just didn't publish them, or maybe they did get published and you just can't find them anywhere. But I've tried to find these other 3 online and you can't seem to get them. I tried to contact Holland, and but they never, I couldn't get anyone to reply to me at Holland. But the other 3 stories are, one of the stories is Road to Sampo by Hwang Sok-young, right? And Road to Sampo got published in a different series, okay? Sorry, I need a bigger desk. So Road to Sampo got published in a different series, but then the other 2 stories are, one of them is called, where is it? Time and River by Kim Ji-won, right? Time and River by Kim Ji-won. And wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the other one was The Sticklebacks Approaching My Net by Cho Se-hee. And as far as I know, neither of those stories have ever been translated and published in English. And I sort of would like to get hold of both of them just to sort of complete that set if I could. So if you do know of the existence of English translations of those stories, let me know and I will be extremely happy. Anyway, okay, so thank you for watching. Have you ever felt lost or disconnected in a big city? What books have captured that feeling of alienation for you? So feel free to leave a comment. Don't forget to like the video. Please subscribe for more deep dives into Korean literature and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. And thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.